Well, good morning. Glad y'all could join us. We're in the season of Lent, and so Amber, Lloyd, and I are going to have a brief conversation about some things that means, and we'll be looking back at the passage that we shared in worship on Sunday at Abingdon United Methodist Church. But first, I want to introduce Amber. A lot of you all know her by name. She's on our website and on the list of staff that you see in the bulletin, but this may be the first time that a lot of you have seen her face and will hear her voice. So, hey, Amber, uh, hey there, good morning. You
Good
want
morning.
to you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So yeah, you've probably seen me on the website, but you haven't gotten to see me around because I work remotely for the church. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee with my family, my two little boys and my husband. And I just handle the communications and the social media and whatever else remotely that I can do to support Abingdon, and I'm happy to do it. It's really fun.
Well, we appreciate it. So yeah, Amber manages our website and social media, and she really helped us take our live stream to the next level and to where it works as well as it does with the sound quality and good camera and all that kind of stuff. So we appreciate your work. And um, something else that you may want to know about Amber, but I'll let her tell you. But so you're in seminary, right?
Yes, yeah. The end of my third year is coming up at the end of this summer term, and then I'll begin my final year at seminary and hopefully, Lord willing, graduate in spring of 2025.
And where are you studying? I'm just wondering.
At Duke Divinity, and
Oh, really? Okay.
thanks in no small part to you for telling me about the beginning of that program and helping me to transfer and writing a reference letter and all of those things.
Yeah. Well, and you're enjoying it. That's
Yes, I love it. I love it.
good. 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 Um, so this season of Lent is a 40-day period that prepares us for Good Friday and Easter. It began on Ash Wednesday, and it's a more somber time. It's a more focused time where we try to be more intentional about our spiritual disciplines, our prayer, our study, being in worship, and all those things. Um, Amber, I've got memories of Lent growing up. I'm wondering, did you grow up? You grew up in the Church of God, Anderson, Indiana. Now you work in the United Methodist Church and are a member of the United Methodist Church, but you have strong roots in that branch of the Church of God. Did you grow up observing Lent?
Yes, actually, starting really in high school, not all the churches that I attended observed liturgical seasons like Lent, but the church that I attended in high school before I started college, the pastor would have called himself a closet Presbyterian. And so he had a
Mm,
tendency to observe liturgical seasons like Advent and Lent. And I have really strong memories, especially of his preaching during the Lenten season.
okay. When I grew up, I remember that Lent was a thing and that you were supposed to give up something during Lent. But absent from my childhood memories were an Ash Wednesday service, a service on Monday, Thursday, or Good Friday. I don't remember those coming along in my bringing until high school. And even then, I can remember an Ash Wednesday service where there were no ashes. So the sign of the cross was made on her forehead, but there were no ashes. I think some of the fear was that was just too radical or too maybe had too much of a Catholic or an Anglican feel. But now it's a regular part of the life of a lot of United Methodist churches. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to participate in my first Ash Wednesday service until I became a Methodist. So
Hmm.
I would see my friends with ashes on their foreheads and know that that was related to Ash Wednesday, but I didn't get to receive my first cross until I became a Methodist.
Yeah. We had a really nice Ash Wednesday service here at Abingdon. It was it's always very special. What was really special this year is we had a few more children that attended, and so while it is a very serious service, it was really and one infant. So I loved having the sound of children in the background. I mean, it's for all ages, and so. I hope that parents will continue to bring their kids each year. We didn't provide nursery; we just said bring them on, and they were great. It was a beautiful service, still very serious, very somber, very moving. But having the that many children there was really nice. So, did you all do Ash Wednesday? Oh, they may not know that you also work for a church in Knoxville. So, First Farragut United Methodist Church, doing similar things that you do for us, and also leading worship. Did you all have an Ash Wednesday service?
Yes, we did. I was about children, actually, I have a funny story. This year, our pastor asked me to help do the imposition of the ashes, the drawing of the crosses. And um, he had prepared me because, we both have two small kids, and he said it's kind of an interesting experience to draw the ashes on your child's forehead,
Mm,
and
mm,
basically
mhm,
reminding them, to dust you shall return, and it's a strange experience.
mhm.
So I had prepared myself for that. And my little son, Simon, who's about to turn 7, he came through the line, and I put the little cross on his forehead, and he steps to the side and he says, "Well, that was really weird." And then he went and sat down. So it was a somber moment, and then it wasn't all of a sudden. But yeah, we had a great service on last Wednesday on Valentine's Day, because you can't spell Valentine without Lent.
Right, without Lent, yeah. Well, mommy just told me I'm going to die. I don't know what to do about that. Um,
Right, right.
Wanted to have a brief conversation about the gospel lesson that we read on Sunday, Mark's account of Jesus in the wilderness. You're familiar with that, his temptation. Anything you notice in that passage?
Yeah, so like a lot of stories in Mark's gospel, the experience of Jesus' temptation is sort of truncated compared to in
Hmm.
Matthew and Luke. It's a lot shorter. And um, I remember hearing you preach on a from a different gospel on the same story. But what do you think about the fact that it's a lot shorter in Mark? Why is that?
Well, one reason why seems to be that, like you said, Mark tends to abbreviate some things that the other Matthew and Luke take longer to tell. Whether he's in a hurry, whether he's doing that for stylistic reasons, we don't know. It could be that he doesn't want to include the actual three temptations: turn stones to bread, throw yourself from the temple, bow down and worship, and receive power. So he may not want to include that, or he may not know about those. So we really don't know. But I think that Mark has he wants to draw our attention to two things. Jesus is in the desert. He's tempted by the devil, and he says he was with the wild beasts, and that angels waited on him. So those are the details that we get. And so I think that Mark really wants us to maybe focus on those wild beasts. Have you ever thought about what it means for the angels to wait on Jesus, or for the him to be there with the wild beasts or the wild animals?
Um, to imagine Jesus in a wilderness with hungry wild animals, it's not really a great image. It sounds like a dangerous one.
Yeah,
But maybe with the angels waiting on him, it makes you think of Daniel in the lion's den. If there are
yeah,
hungry wild beasts, the angels waiting on him are maybe keeping him from being a snack for a wild beast in the wilderness.
yeah. That's one of the things that we talked about on Sunday. Is there's two strong history of interpretation pieces there. One, some people have said that Jesus in the desert with the animals is like Adam in the garden. Um, and a lot have also gone to Daniel and said it's like Daniel in the lion's den. He's facing danger, but the angels take care of him. And that could be the other thing about the angels in 1 Kings 19. Elijah is fleeing Jezebel, who's sent people to kill Elijah. And while he's fleeing, he just sort of gives up. He just says to God, "If this is the way it's going to be, I'd rather die." And he lays down, and no sooner does he do that than an angel appears and brings him food and says, "You need to eat to be sustained on your journey." And what's interesting is he's journeying to the mountain of God, but he eats. And then, do you want to take a guess as to how long that journey lasts? 40
Yes,
days.
40 days.
Yeah. So there's some Elijah background in this story that's really neat. the direction I went with it on Sunday in the message was more to internalize or spiritualize the wild beasts, not to minimize the danger, but to think that part of what Jesus is doing is he's facing some of the wildness within. He's
Mm,
coming right off of his baptism. God has said to him, "You are my son, um, the beloved," and we miss this sometimes, but that's royal language. God is saying, "You are the king." This is his coronation, and so in some ways he's wrestling with the wildness of that power that's been bestowed upon him. And this and Mark also says that the Spirit descended. And one of the things that's different about Mark is that I think the other two gospels that narrate the baptism say that the Spirit came down and rested on him. If you read literally in the Greek in Mark, it says the Spirit entered him. And so I don't know if I'm really misreading it, or uh, but I just thought it would be interesting to think about those wild beasts actually less being an external reality than the wildness within of his vocation and who he is. And then, what do you think about that?
I think that's really interesting. I had
I'm
a
not a heretic.
conversation. I had a conversation recently about what it means to be in our own wilderness and how oftentimes it's a liminal space, like a between space of not really knowing where you're going next, but continuing to take steps forward and wrestling with that sort of uncertainty in a liminal space feels like wrestling wild beasts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, so what I went from there to say is that's what Jesus is wrestling with, and maybe that's a model for us during this season, is we all have some wild things, some wild beasts, some untamed things that are within us, things that we very often tend to ignore, and don't face. Some we may not even know are present, but others we know well are going on in our head and hearts, but we just sort of try to power through or muscle through. And so the shorter version is that I hope that this season can be a time where we will do that prayerfully, and realize that we're not alone. We don't have to face those wild things alone. The point is not um, go and do the work on your own. The point is you're in community. Find somebody to talk to, pray, trust the Spirit, that kind of thing. So, um, but I hope that this can be a season where we will, um, uh, as you said, wrestle with some of the beasts that try to undo us. You have any other follow-up questions or thoughts on that?
I was just thinking about how grateful I am. It brings Jesus near, uh,
Mm,
that he could have been wrestling with internal things, much like we wrestle with those sorts of things. So not only are we alone in the fact that we can lean on our community, we are not alone in having experienced this to begin with, and it brings Jesus close, and I really like that.
yeah, and the not alone is important. So that's back to the angels were there. Jesus didn't go to wrestle with the wild beasts, whether they were external or internal or both, on his own. He was there, and the angels waited on him. So there is a power that's greater than our own strength that comes to our aid. So, well, cool. Well, thanks for coming along for this conversation. Hope that you all who have listened in have enjoyed it, and I don't know, maybe we'll do it again sometime. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. We should definitely do it again.
Okay, cool.
All right. Bye, Paul.
See ya.